Okay, everyone, I think we're ready to go now. Looks like everyone's joined us. So on behalf of Servium, welcome to the next in our series of INOOT webinars. I need one of those. This is season 2. So thanks for joining us today. I'm Steve Dawes. I'm the Services Director at Servium. So purpose of our webinar series really is to enlighten, inform you as our customers around sort of groundbreaking technologies, disruptive tech, trends in the marketplace, things that we see are quite sort of disruptive, if you like, but can also add value to your business. And today it's all around Aruba, how with Aruba we're sort of building a digital workspace and looking at a sort of user-centric view of connectivity and sort of performance. And today, I'm joined by Chris Lindsell from HP, who's got one of the longest titles I've ever come across. So, morning, Chris. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a good title, isn't it?
Yeah, I managed to just squeeze it on the slide. So,
yeah.
Thanks for joining us today. So, 21st of June, it's summer solstice, but yes, it's famous for Season 2, Episode 2 of INOOT. But what else happened on June the 21st for football fans out there? 1970 in Mexico City, Brazil and Pele became the first team and player to win the World Cup 3 times. They beat Italy 4-1. So that's for the footy fans. 78, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Tim Rice premiered the musical Evita. And in 1982, Prince William was born. So a few famous things happened today, but our Aruba INOOT is probably the most important. So hopefully everyone has got their crunchies who registered early. We do have 1 or 2 people joining us internationally, so welcome. You probably haven't got your crunchies yet, but we will sort something out through your account manager. So thanks for taking the time out. So we will be doing questions and answers at the end, also doing a poll. Chris is going to do a live demo, so that again puts us on the spot, sort of true Blue Peter style. So you know we've been working with HP and Aruba for a number of years now, and we just think it's a great proposition. But today's really more around the sort of end user experience. So before I hand over to Chris, I just want to give you a little bit of background for those of you who don't know Servium and why this is sort of really relevant today, because we feel with Aruba as a technology, it's really going to deliver value to you and your businesses. And the purpose of Servium, really through our account management team, is putting you at the centre of you, what you do, us understanding your business, walking in your shoes, doing that through our great account management and giving great customer service. So the purpose of these webinars, again, is part of that value add. And working with you as our customers is using our Servium Pathfinder is really helping you from a project point of view, no matter how small, no matter how large, working with you with a strategy, helping you design and then implement, and then providing you support post-implementation. But the key thing for us is when we've delivered a project of whatever scale, is reviewing that project to make sure we've delivered within the timescales to your expectations, and more importantly, within budget. And we deliver that via our services ecosystem, where you as customers have access to a huge resource of technical expertise and subject matter expertise. And Chris today is a good example of that sort of resource that's available to you. So our ecosystem has delivered a number of successful projects around Aruba as part of digital workspace, digital transformation. And today, really, Chris is going to go into a little bit more detail. So, on our sort of Pathfinder, this really focusing on the networking area of the technologies today. So, Chris, that's been completed. Over to you, and fingers crossed the live demo works. The technologies are not going to let us down.
Okay, thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. So User Experience Insights was a company that was come out of a company called Cape that Aruba bought last year. Cape Networks was its previous name. We've rebranded it User Experience Insight. Nice catchy name, but it does say, describe exactly what the product does. So if we have a look at, here we go. So if you have a look at the work environment today, whether it's the office, retail, education, manufacturing, Wi-Fi is now becoming the most sort of critical way to connecting users and devices, etc., to business critical applications and information. So Wi-Fi is really becoming critical, and you often get that call or that statement, there's a problem with the Wi-Fi, but is there really a problem with the Wi-Fi? And where do you actually start in order to identify if the problem is the Wi-Fi or it's somewhere else? And it's really down to, sometimes it's a case of sort of mean time to innocence. How quickly can you prove the problem somewhere else and identify actually where that problem is, and then resolve it? And that's what User Experience Insights is all about. So if you look at the way we traditionally monitor networks and their performance and user experience, we traditionally use sort of NMS systems that are taking information from the infrastructure and giving you a view of how the network's performing and issues. It tends to be reactive in nature, often very vendor specific, and it's really the network's perspective of what's going on. My analogy, it's a bit like asking the kids to mark their own homework. Whereas what we've got with User Experience Insight is we've got a totally vendor agnostic view of the network, and from the client user's perspective. So we basically have a sensor that synthetically tests and simulates a user connecting to the network 24/7. So it's not just connecting to the network, you can configure it to connect to business critical applications as well. So you're monitoring that connectivity, the user experience connecting to the network and the applications, and it's totally independent of the infrastructure. So if you're not using an Aruba infrastructure today, but we're using somebody else's, this will still work in a vendor agnostic way. So the solution comes as two parts. You've got the sensor. This is a small Linux box, looks a bit like a small AP that you mount sort of on a wall or under a desk in the office or work environment. And then we have a cloud dashboard that you access to get the monitoring information and troubleshooting information. So this sensor is a little Linux box. As I said, very simple to set up and configure. You just plug it in. Comes with a integrated SIM card, so it'll jump on the cellular network, phone home, and register itself with the dashboard. You can then connect it to your Wi-Fi, and you can also connect it to the Ethernet as well. So it can be paired via PoE and monitor the Ethernet as well as the wireless configuration. It does come with a power brick as well. So very simple to get up and running. You can then monitor up to 3 different SSIDs and the Ethernet connectivity, as I mentioned. So it'll monitor the associations to the network, do all the normal network services like DHCP, DNS. It'll authenticate if you're authenticating onto the network. You can configure it to log into a captive portal if you want to test that as well. And then it'll monitor, business critical applications that you've asked it to monitor, whether they be internally hosted or cloud hosted. While the sensor's monitoring your network, it's also doing a packet capture. There's a 50 meg packet capture buffer on the sensor, and when it finds an issue, it sort of goes into triage mode, which I'll show you in the demo shortly, and it'll drill down and do this, go into diagnostics, stepping through various diagnostic tests to try and identify the cause of the issue. And it saves a packet capture of that and uploads it to the dashboard. So this is really ideal, for example, if you've got lots of remote offices, so you don't actually have to travel to those offices to do the troubleshooting, because you've basically got remote eyes and ears there. So if someone from the Edinburgh office phones up and says, the Wi-Fi was rubbish last Wednesday, not only do you not need to have gone up there to troubleshoot it, but you can actually go back in time and see what the issue was, because you've got the packet captures, etc., when those issues occurred. So the dashboard itself is cloud hosted, very intuitive, as you'll see in a minute, with sort of traffic light and smiley faces telling you what's happening on the network, and very simply allow you to drill down and troubleshoot. So let's have a look at what it looks like in action. So let me share my desktop with you. So Steve, if you can let me know when you can see it.
Yeah, it's all
fantastic. Good. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so this is the dashboard. This is an unhappy one, but basically what you've got at the top level is you've got the you've got the faces that give you an idea of the experience and the traffic light. So here we've got the different sensors that we're monitoring, the services that we're monitoring, like Ethernet connectivity, the Wi-Fi, DHCP, DNS. If there's a captive portal that we'd be monitoring, that would be here as well. Here's the internal applications we're monitoring, and here we've got the external applications we're monitoring, and they're basically arbitrary groups that you can define any way you like. Here you can see this little symbol. You can see this particular issue here. You can tell just by a glance is only impacting the Wi-Fi. Actually, let me zoom in a bit and make it a bit bigger. There we go. This is only impacting the Wi-Fi, because you can see the Wi-Fi symbols yellow, but the Ethernet connection is green. So, yeah, at a glance at the dashboard, you've got a lot of information at this top level. If I look at this other one, this one is a number. You can have multiple groups, grouped down to 7 levels. So you could use this to provide a managed service to other customers monitoring their user experience, or if you've got a very large geographically dispersed organization, you've got that sort of hierarchical grouping to help organize the sensors and the information. You can see where the sensors are located in the world. So if we go over here, we could drill down into California. We can see where they're located, and you can even see which buildings, etc., they're located in. Go back to the smiley faces. Again, so here it's very easy to see. You could see at the top here we've got a number of sensors in this group, but only some of them have a DHCP issue, and it's all on the Wi-Fi. So very easy to see at the top level at a glance what's going on. So it's very simple to set up. So if we go to settings, basically you define the networks that you want to monitor. So you can add any of the SSIDs the sensors can see. You can specify the authentication approach, whether you're using whether you're using a proxy, whether you want to lock it to the bands, etc. Very easy to set up and configure. Once you've set up the networks that you want to monitor, you can then associate them with the sensors so you can specify which networks you want to monitor on a sensor. So in this case, I'm monitoring 2 SSIDs and the Ethernet connectivity. As I say, we're also doing the packet capture. The probes can also be turned the sensors can also be turned into Wi-Fi Explorer probes as well. So if you actually want, if you use Wi-Fi Explorer to do troubleshooting, this basically turns it into a remote probe for a period of time. You can then set up the tests that you want to define. So we have a whole load of predefined tests for common cloud-based applications. So we can do Dropbox, Facebook, Google Docs, etc. So Dropbox, we actually download and upload files on a regular basis. YouTube will stream a video. This fast.com is a really good one, although you might not want to monitor the performance of Netflix in your organization. Fast.com is a bit like speedtest.net, but apparently some service providers sort of optimize for speedtest.net. But if they optimize for fast.com, we all get great video quality for Netflix. So a good way of measuring throughput. But there's a whole load of predefined ones that you can select from here, whether they're or if you want to do internal and custom, you can define very simple generic ones, whether that be just pinging or connecting to a web server, etc. These can all be defined here very simply. So once you've defined your tests, you can define thresholds. So what's the threshold on which you believe there's an issue? And obviously all these things come with sensible defaults. And once you've set up your thresholds, you can configure alerts. So you can specify the fact that you want to be alerted via email about minor or errors and warning alerts. And we can do that based on time of day, etc. And there's also a weekly report that gives you a nice summary of how you're performing from a user experience perspective relative to the previous week. So very simple to set up and configure. So let's drill down and have a look at how it goes into troubleshooting mode. So here, if I have a look at my sensor, you can see here I've got, these are the two SSIDs I'm monitoring and the Ethernet connectivity. So if we go to the old wireless SSID, you can see a number of issues have occurred here. I've got ongoing issue with high lookup time. So you can see when that is very easily, just by hovering over it, you can see when these issues occurred. Let's go down and have a look at the DNS resolution failing. So this occurred twice. Looks like it happened this morning as well. So if you drill down into that, you can see here all the tests it did as it went into triage mode. So associated with the Wi-Fi, it was able to reach the gateway, but had a problem with DNS. So you can then see here the exact Linux commands the sensor was executing when it was doing this test. And you've got the other tests here, so no reply from the name server. So you can really step down and drill down and understand precisely what tests were executed and what the results were. And as I mentioned here, you can see the issue was on Wi-Fi, but there was no issue on the Ethernet. So that's the advantage of testing the Ethernet and the Wi-Fi. You can see whether it's specific to one or the other. And here I can just click and download the packet capture that was saved at that time with the results of all these tests. So I could drill into it in more detail. So you can see the real power of this, especially if you've got remote sites, large distributed sites, etc. Down here you can see all the different, here you can see the Wi-Fi environment. You can lock it to a particular radio if you want to. It cycles through testing. You can see the different things that we're measuring over time. We can go back and look at data for 30 days back or any of the custom time periods we're traveling. So here you can see the MOS scores, download rate, etc. And if you drill that into this, we can see the download rate based on the different applications. So you can see for what we're getting through FAST, what we're getting via Dropbox, what we're getting via YouTube, etc. So really simple to use and very powerful from an information perspective. Let's just jump back, and so you can see here all the different applications we're monitoring as well, and you can drill in onto any of these and see over time what those scores were, and we could go back and see what that was for the last 30 days. Okay, right, so let's jump back to the slides. So if I stop sharing, can you put the slides back up?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Fantastic. Right.
There you go, Chris.
Okay, thank you. So this, as I mentioned, you can get email notifications of alerts. So this is what they look like. They pop into your inbox as a Aruba notification giving you details of the alert. You click on it, takes you, and you can very quickly get through to the dashboard to see what the underlying issue was and then troubleshoot it. You get these nice weekly reports that show you how the user experience is relative to the previous week and highlighting where it's improving or where you've had issues. So as I mentioned, in the build-up, it's, you know, Wi-Fi today really is the critical way that most organizations either are or will be accessing applications, data, etc. So ensuring that you've got good connectivity and the user experience as a positive one is absolutely critical. So having a totally infrastructure agnostic way of monitoring and troubleshooting that and identifying the issues is really key, so that you, as the people responsible for the network, know about the issues before people are phoning you up and complaining about them. Also, if you look at some, you know, if you, especially in some sort of verticals like education or retail or restaurants, etc., you know, people are very quick to jump on social media, etc., and complain about things if you've got things like poor Wi-Fi, etc. And once you get a reputation, it's very, you know, it's very easy to have your brand damaged. So being able to monitor and ensure and troubleshoot Wi-Fi performance and connectivity from the user experience is really key to maintaining not just the user's experience, but also the company's reputation as well in some areas. And this is true whether you're looking at enterprise, campus, retail, it's true for all of these. And as I say, this solution really comes into its own when you've got, you know, a lot of distributed sites where you want to be able to do remote troubleshooting and monitoring. In universities, we were having a lot of traction with this, distributed around the universities, in the halls of residence, for example, yes, ensuring that the students have really good Netflix and gaming performance on a Saturday night, or if there was an issue, we can really identify quickly whether the issue was wireless or the universities, or it was actually the application servers that were having a challenge, and it wasn't our problem at all. And as I mentioned in the build-up, this is a totally vendor agnostic solution. It doesn't matter whose Wi-Fi you've got. So rule of thumb, if you're doing blanket coverage, you'd put one sensor per sort of 10 APs in your infrastructure, but often people will start off with a few, maybe one per floor, one per remote site, in important locations like large meeting rooms or outside the CEO's office to ensure they've got excellent Wi-Fi. So it tends to be something people build on and then invest more and more as they get the value from them. So the User Experience Insight is really just one small piece of Aruba's mobile-first architecture. We've got sort of enterprise-grade, industry-leading Wi-Fi and wired infrastructures to deliver the mobile-first architecture. And at the top of that, we've got, you know, really innovative management and security and location services solutions, and we partner with, have a very substantial partner ecosystem which allows us to deliver the sort of mobile first smart office experience that your employees and customers would expect in a modern day like today. From how we rate compared to everyone else, Aruba, you know, has been, and HPE have been up there in the leaders quadrant for 13 years straight. So we are one of the industry leaders in a wireless and wired technology. And if you look today at how we rate in the Gartner's critical capabilities, you know, we're leading in 5 out of 6 of those. So Aruba, HPE Aruba really is a company that delivers the user experience, and from a wired and wireless experience that's highly resilient, delivers high performance, provides a very positive experience from a connectivity perspective. So just to wrap up, you know, whether you're in the smart office, manufacturing, retail, or education, ensuring user experience is critical, and user experience insights will really help you do that, no matter who the underlying wireless infrastructure is provided by. So with that, Steve, do we have any questions?
Yeah, okay, that's really good, Chris. Thanks for that. And it's amazing how much information and data that's sort of gathering there to you know, to help sort of IT managers and network managers really sort of assess any performance issues and so on the network. So that's really good. Thanks for that, Chris. So we can take some questions now. Everyone should be able to see Q&A box on your screen. So if you'd like to ask a question, then please fire away. So first question I've got in, Chris, from Adam. What is the cost of this? Is it based per unit? Is there a licensing model? So how does the licensing model work, Chris?
Yeah, so you basically buy the sensors, and you also need a subscription for the monitoring service. So the sensors are a one-off cost, and then there's 1, 3, and 5 year subscription licenses for the monitoring. And that includes 5 megabits of cellular data a month. So the great thing about that is the fact that you have some pure out-of-band management capability. So if, for example, you've got a sensor at a remote site and it goes down, there's a little capacitor in there that keeps the sensor alive long enough for it to phone home and say the power's gone. So if you're monitoring a remote site, for example, normally it goes red. You're not sure whether you've lost the power, whether it's just the router that's gone down or the WAN link's gone down. If the power's gone down, the sensor will stay alive long enough and will show you in the dashboard that it's lost power. And there's also an optional 100% cellular or an unlimited cellular license that is additional to the monitoring license. So if you want to just purely monitor it via the cellular network, you can do that as well. But most people, the 5 megabits of data is enough for sort of ad hoc out-of-band management requirements and initial setup. So you buy the sensor, and then you buy the monitoring subscriptions in 1, 3, and 5 year packages.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for that, Chris. And obviously, via Account Manager, we can provide you pricing for the licensing and the sensors. A question from Gavin: Are there any restrictions over where the sensors can be installed?
No, so you put the sensors where the users are. So you don't put them on the ceiling where the APs are, because that's not where your clients are. So traditionally you put them at sort of waist height, desk height, either on pillars or walls or even under desks, etc., around the building or sites that you're doing the monitoring. You want to monitor. So that's the usual place to mount them. And there's mounting kits that come with them. They're securely mounted and they're tamper-proof, etc.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. A question from Ian in relation to how long would it take to implement that in your business? So, for example, if you wanted to implement 2 or 3 sensors, what sort of, how long would it take?
It's really straightforward. To be quite honest, as you saw from the demo, it's very straightforward to set up. You plug the sensor in, it phones home, registers with the dashboard. You define what Wi-Fi networks you want to connect to. Do you want it to monitor the Ethernet? What apps to test, etc. And off it goes. So you can be up and running. You can get a sensor up and running in 5 minutes. It's very straightforward from that perspective.
So it's quite intuitive, really, from the point of view of not needing a lot of training around the cloud-based UI and so on. Absolutely,
it's very straightforward, and there's a sort of initial setup wizard that steps you through getting initially configured and up and running.
Okay, I think there's a final question I've got on my screen for now from John. How secure are the sensors? So a good question, with security being quite high on people's agendas at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So the sensors are really locked down. So the sensors initiate all communication. So they talk to the dashboard. You can't get into a sensor. It's absolutely locked down. And it securely communicates with the dashboard. The dashboard's hosted in AWS. We've had the whole solution pen tested, and we can successfully. So from a security perspective, we take it very seriously, and it's architected to be secure.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for those questions. If you do have any additional questions, then either get in touch with Account Manager or drop me an email, and we'll get back to you with any specific questions that you have. So, Chris, thanks very much for taking your time out this morning. And just while I'm sort of summarising, I've just launched a poll. If everyone wouldn't mind sort of responding to that, because it's really key that we get feedback from all our customers on these events to make sure that we're delivering value to around there, and if there's anything specific that we didn't cover. So just while I'm summarising, if you wouldn't mind closing, Chris, I think we talked about potential sort of anyone who is interested in this of doing a small proof of concept in relation to this. So how would that work? So I know we've talked about getting some sensors and so on. So how would we work with customers who are interested in a POC?
So absolutely. So if you guys got yourself a pool of sensors to support it, I can set up dashboards for the POC trials. So we do this very regularly. We have partners that have purchased a number of sensors that they then send to customers for trials. It's a perfect solution for trialing because it's really simple to set up and get running. In fact, often we don't get the sensors back that the customer will buy them. And we've had some really positive stories about how we've really quickly identified, problems on the network that otherwise would have taken ages to identify.
Okay, that's great. So if anyone is interested, there is an option in the poll to register your interest, and then we'll work with you around the sending out the sensors, and then also working with Chris to help get you set up and running initially. And so if you're interested, please just flag that in the poll, and we'll work together on that one, Chris. But I think that's been really interesting, sort of insight into that whole sort of approach around that user experience, because a lot of people don't talk about it. That from the point of view of Wi-Fi, from all the vendors, they talk about what a great management dashboard it is or whatever, but a lot of people forget the user experience, and we all are so dependent this day and age on Wi-Fi. So I think that's been a great overview, Chris. Thanks very much for that. So for the benefit of everyone attending today, we'll be sending out an email this afternoon with a link to the recording of this webinar, so you can share it with your colleagues. And also in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be uploading that to our YouTube channel. So feel free to subscribe to that as well for future webinars. Also, we've done a white paper around Aruba and sort of called the 4 steps to prepare your network for the future of work. It's a really great white paper that we've written in collaboration with Aruba. So we'll send you a link to download that from our website as well. It gives you a little bit more detail about some of the areas we talked about today, but sort of some of the main features of Aruba and why it's one of the market leaders in the market today. So we'll send that out later today. So thanks everyone for taking the time out. Hopefully you found it of use. Thanks for finishing off and completing the poll. So this was the second of season 2. The third one in 2 weeks' time on the 5th of July. Again with HP, we're talking about Windows 7 end of life. So if you are interested in attending that, then please go to our website and register for the next webinar. And also you'll see all the future ones coming up as well. So once again, Chris, thank you. That was really useful. I'm glad the technology worked and didn't let us down. Everyone else, thanks for joining and have a good Friday. Thank you.